Hey everyone, welcome to Gaming the Keats. I'm your host Chris, and today we're doing a Titans Fall friendly. What is that, might you ask? Basically, our gaming group had a tournament called Titans Fall, and it was the first week of November. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend, but I still made a list anyway to help friends practice their lists, and I just wanted one more actual game with my good friend Vamps in Maryland, with my Titans Fall supposed list if I were to attend the tournament. So he obliged, and we got in this really impromptu game with that list that I was going to take, and his Titans Fall tournament list with his Highborn Elves. So with that, let's get into the action. Alright, so the list I am taking, or that I was theoretically planning on taking to the Titans Fall tournament, starts with the good old Miser of Sugalug. This is pretty standard. So, just a Wizard Master of Evocation, and I had points, so we did Mirrored Scales and Segmented Shell. So that's, to be honest, you really don't need the upgrades. They're just nice little bells and whistles to make the Miser that much more frustrating for your opponent to deal with. Next up, this is one of my favorite units, just because I'm really happy with my paint job on this little model I use for the Kalima's Deceiver, and so every chance I get to use it, I want to. So yeah, we have the Kalima's Deceiver. We're going with the Whispers of the Veil and Smite the Unbeliever, with Hellish Larynx and Guiding Venom Sacs. So he's got the Breath Weapon and also the Poisoned, giving his unit poison and giving himself poison 5-up. And this counts for both shooting and close combat, which you'll probably notice where he's going to be going later on. 2 units of 22 Succubi with Mesmerizing Plumage and Musicians. That's 500 points each, so easy 1,000 points right there. Weehaw, core done. Here, I'm trying out I wanted to do Brazen Beasts with Incendiary Ichor. I have the models, of course. One of the themes with this army was no hobbying. I wanted to play everything that I had at my disposal without having to do any prior hobbying, no rushing painting at the night before sort of idea. So, Brazen Beasts, I have the 4 bird models I use as either bloatflies or brazens. And so I chose Brazen Beasts with Incendiary Ichor because I figured, well, our meta has Pyro and Alchemy and Flaming and Queensguard and all that nastiness. So yeah, that's why they're there. 5 Hoarders with Chitinous Scales. They're God, I love this unit so much. For 450 points, 5 Hoarders, they're a freaking steal. I love them. And then I wanted to use, this is not a meta pick, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. This is a Hope Harvester, the Engine of Damnation, all-seeing eye, so he's accurate. This is my big centerpiece model that I just wanted to break out. Normally, if you've seen my channel and battles in previous editions, I use this model as the Maw of a Khan. But nope, he's going to be my Hope Harvester today, and hopefully murder some elves. And then the final piece here is 8 Eidolons with all-seeing eye as well, so they're accurate. And guess what? That's where the Kalima's going, to give them that sweet, sweet poison shooting. So, yeah, that's my list. So for my opponent's Highborn Elves that he took to the tournament, you can see the results online, so I don't want to spoil them. At some point I was planning on making a tournament in review video with one of our good friends, Mark, and show pictures and everything, but that is yet to be scheduled. It's in the works, but alas. Anyway, here we got a mage with a gleaming robe on an eagle of Master of Cosmology, Asprid Scholar, so I guess all the spells have an extra 6-inch range or something like that. We got 3 commanders. I love this. This is really fun. We got one who's on the horse who has the Nova Flare. Just cheap for what he does, I think. He's a great utility captain. We got another BSB with Moonlight Arrows. and an Aether icon. That's nice. And then we got another one. This one's pretty fun. Grandmaster of the Sword. Protection of Duroc. So he's like defense 10, I think. Yeah, he's like defensive 10. It's pretty funny. So yeah, that's pretty sweet. And just with a great weapon. So he's going to go in the spears, and just really just give that unit some extra leadership. We got some Seaguard, 17, 5 Reavers for chaff. We got the 9 Knights that with their Stalkers standard, and the captain, on the horse will go in there. We got 17 Queen's Guard, because surprise, they're awesome. With Banner of Becalming, that's pretty standard as well, so he's going to take away one of my channels. He's got an Initiate, with Molten Copper and Flaming Swords, and he's got a Fire Phoenix. And so, yes, I worked tirelessly to paint that model. Not actually, it was, the Fire Phoenix was actually fairly simple to paint once I kind of figured out what I wanted to do. But, there you have it. That's James's list. Here you go. We got our pre-game settings. We're on Vestia 6, Refused Flanks, Trophies of War. So we got our scoring units have to kill a unit and they get a little token icon, and whoever has the most token icons at the end of the game wins. The token icon is lost if the unit is, if they like flee or is shaken, I guess. And then I got settle the score, so I had to pick 2 units. I can't remember exactly what I picked. I think I picked the Phoenix and the Knights of Rima. I didn't pick the chaff, just in my mind, because I thought, well, my opponent could just keep the chaff in his backfield, and then I don't get my secondary. So this way, like, he is free to use his chaff, and I'm hoping that he can use it in a way, I'm forcing him to use it in a way where it gives me a token. That's what I'm thinking there, but I'm not sure if that was the correct play, to be honest, of picking the Knights of Rima. Maybe I could have just picked the Initiate, because the Eidolons, basically, their job is to either hunt down the Knights, the Initiate, or the Phoenix. They have, like, a job. They have targets that they need to go after. And then my opponent got to conserve their numbers, so he has to keep, like, the 3 units alive by the end of the game. I think they're his scoring units as well. So, there you have it. All right, matchup analysis. So the macro side of things, this is what I'm thinking about before the match. And this is what notes I took. So the question I had was, do I push or do I not push? If I don't push, it's effectively going to be an 11-9 loss, just because conserver numbers automatically makes it so my opponent will get it. But he also outranges me, so that 11-9 can easily go up, and I would lose probably more because I'm losing more points, and it's on me to basically kind of come forward and take points, because I don't have quite the same ranged output as my opponent's list. And then one of my weaknesses in the list that I made for the tournament is I no designated chaff piece. My goal was to actually not have a chaff piece this tournament. And honestly, I really wanted to try and either outmaneuver my opponent, or if need be, make my opponent get stuck on my units instead of just having chaff. We'll see if that comes back to bite me or not. And then basically for the macro side, my focus is just trying to play the primary, just trying to get my opponent to commit a unit where I can take a point, where I can take a a token. That's like my goal for the game. The micro, basically with the Queen's Guard and the Cosmology on the table and the Flame Phoenix, I'm like forced to keep the Succubi in reserve. I can't push up with them. Like, they're just going to get neutered, like, immediately. I think I also chose the magical move. I did a swap to choose the magical move because it actually allows a unit that I do have Dying Blow, and allows me to pressure that Queen's Guard unit, hopefully, or allows me to pressure other weak points in his army, and effectively I can use a unit as like pseudo chaff to hopefully get my opponent stuck there. Like I said earlier, Eidolons plus Kalima, they have their priority targets, so it's like, depending on deployment, they're going to go after, my opponent's not going to let me get everything, right? So their primary job is just focus on one of those targets. And then I really just have to stop the Highborn Hereditary, which sucks because my opponent has such a strong magic phase. And yeah, it's like very difficult to stop, especially as a demon player when you're giving them that extra bit of magic support, which is challenging. So we got another aspect of Floorhammer here. So my opponent got to be the defender, great, as in not great. So he deployed. So I decided, you know what, screw it, I'm going to drop to go first. Or no, you know what, I did not drop to go first. We did it back and forth now that I remember this game. So I dropped the Hoarders first because they were, you know, that seems pretty obvious. I kind of want to keep them central and just push them forward and use cover to my advantage. The Succubi are going to be on either. Then we, you know, my opponent dropped, I don't remember what my opponent dropped first, but he effectively dropped the Spears. Then we exchanged with like a unit. I did Succubi. My opponent drops his, I think he dropped the Sea Guard. Then I drop the other unit of Succubi. My opponent drops, I think, the Initiate. And so then at this point, seeing here, no, I think I drop the, once I drop the Brazens, I kind of have a pretty good idea of where, no, hold on, I don't drop the Brazens yet. This is where I had to and ah about where is he going to put his Knights and his Phoenix and his Initiate. So I decided to maybe force that. But because of the refused flank, it's really hard to fit all the units. So when I put the Hope Harvester here, I basically had kind of already decided in my head, I kind of have to now commit the Brazens and the Eidolons on this side. So my opponent, I think, then drops his Knights, probably knowing that I can't get the Eidolons on this side. So then at that point, I committed and dropped for first turn. And so we have the Eidolons right here. We have the Brazens, and my opponent has the Phoenix across from the Brazens as well. So at least they have a Flaming Aegis against the Phoenix and the Queen's Guard. So that's nice. And there you have it. Okay, on my turn one, I push with all the more resilient things first. So my opponent actually did his Defender Vanguard and Vanguard the Phoenix back a little bit, which was annoying because it was very difficult to get as many shots up onto the Phoenix with the Eidolons and Kalima as I could. So basically I can only really get like 3 models to shoot the Phoenix, but luckily I am without, I can do a stand and shoot from this range right here if he chooses to charge me, and then I think the Kalima might be able to finish off the Phoenix once he comes in. So we still have a front with the Brazens here, so I'm pushing up with the Brazens. I push up with the Miser, I push up with the, the Hoarders. I think my opponent lets me readjust this a little bit because from this position, I technically don't get cover. Weirdly enough, because if you do the drawing a line to a point from every model to like a point, 2 out of the 3 lines are outside of cover. So in this position, you technically don't get cover. So these guys, my intention was to put them in cover, so my opponent let me just readjust them just a hair and just get this corner back into cover, so that way I would benefit from cover from the ruins. Hope Harvester pushes, but at the not really. I just kind of angle to just be ready for the Knights to come down. The Knights are not an ideal target, and they're really preventing me from getting to the target I really want to shoot, which is the Queen's Guard. But let's see what the Hope Harvester can do at that rate. Magic, I get off, my opponent stops Soul Blight onto the Phoenix, and then I get off Touch of the Reaper. Unfortunately, I only get off 1 wound through the Aegis save, and then With shooting, I get off, again, with only the 3 models that were actually able to shoot, I get off another wound onto the Phoenix, so the Phoenix has taken 2 wounds so far. On my opponent's turn, my opponent just moves the knights up to get a charge off onto the Hope Harvester. The initiate flies over here, ready to intercept as well. I think my opponent actually made a mistake with one of his spell choices. He kept... What did he keep? He didn't choose Pyroclastic Flow. He kept... Oh, man. He kept +1 to wound and... Oh, no. I can't remember. I do apologize, but I'm sure he can remind me in the comments. But regardless, I think we talked about it afterwards. He should have taken Pyroflow. But yeah, anyway, my opponent moves up his So. He's not giving me a charge with the Brazens here. Seaguard moved back. I think maybe I chose the Seaguard as my other settle the score unit. I'm not sure. Not the Knights. I can't remember. But anyways, that's what it is. The Phoenix does a sweeping attack and kills, looks like 3 models. So on the one hand, ouch, but on the other hand, I'm actually okay with that because now I can easily just light troops out of there and just shoot the crap out of the Phoenix and hopefully take it down next turn. Yep, and then in the magic phase, this sucked. Like, so I stopped the hereditary, but my opponent gets off a +1 to wound on the Brazens. And so in the shooting, my opponent puts all the Queen's Guard into the Brazen Beast. And so he got 8 wounds through. Now I have a 3-up Aegis against this. Nope. I rolled 6 1s and 2s. So 1 Brazen eats it, and I take 2 wounds on another. And so they also, I think, and they also, he put off a debuff onto the Brazens as well in case I wanted to charge the spears. I was kind of laughing at myself, honestly, because I was like, damn, what's the point in taking a 3-up a flaming Aegis if you're not going to make any saves? But anyway, that is what it is. So I did have an option to charge both the Brazens and the Miser into the spears, but honestly, odds are I'm just going to get stuck there, and then I'm just going to get countercharged and crumbled, and that's just not a good idea. Especially with only 3 Brazen Beasts now, because that's only 2, 4, 6 impact hits. I mean, yeah, that's a big, hefty unit of spears. So instead, I kind of move like so. I kind of didn't... I kind of cocked up my movement here with the Brazens, but I do push up the Miser a bit. Here I actually kind of back up, it seems like, which is a little weird. Like, I think I actually could have been more aggressive with the Hoarders here and saying if your Knights are going to charge me, I actually focus on, like, buffing the Hoarders more and hoping that my opponent gets stuck on the Hoarders, because I have had that happen before with that matchup. Here, I think I make a bit of a mistake. I choose to not move the Hope Harvester. I'm trying to get maximized shots on 3d6, so that's like rolling 4d6 and taking the 3 highest here and seeing how much damage I can do to the Knights. However, it's a 3 rerollable charge because of that Captain. And my initial thought was, well, okay, if he charges me, yes, he gets a token, but then I can countercharge with the Succubi, and I'll happily do that. And I was also with the understanding that I knew that if he fled that charge, he would be dropping his token. So I was kind of okay with everything, but at the same time, it's costing me my Hope Harvester. So I actually think this is probably not the right move. I could have easily just backed up the 2.5 and given him probably a 6 rerollable, which is still not good, but at least that way, that 2.5 inches means that if he flees, he's going that way. So it's more riskier for him to flee versus like the angle that he ends up in. But anyway, on my turn, yeah, magic. I get some damage off on the Seaguard, and Yes, I do get a -1 resilience off on the Phoenix. I do get off another Smite the Unbeliever onto the Phoenix as well. I do a couple of wounds, and then shooting the remaining Eidolons and the Kalima finish off the Phoenix, and the Phoenix does not come back to life. So mission accomplished there by Eidolons and friends. Or I should say Kalima and friends. And yes, how could I forget? The Hope Harvester actually killed 3 knights with his shooting attack, so that was pretty sweet. However, my opponent's like, screw it, I have a plan, I'm going to charge, and yep, he makes contact with the Hope Harvester. Here, I'm just hoping to survive long enough to take off maybe 1 or 2 more wounds, because I am strength 6, AP 3, so that's pretty nice. So let's see if I can hit. But my opponent takes the bait. He charges the Hope Harvester. And yeah, subsequent shooting. Oh gosh, I think with everything said and done, I don't really remember the magic he got off. Shooting, I think, was also kind of a dud as well on the Hoarders. Ironically enough, I think maybe I take like 1 or 2 wounds on the Hoarders. But yes, he does move the Seaguard back. He's starting to move the Seaguard back. Oh yes, I did get, somehow I got off a, I think I also got a Dance Macabre on these guys and moved them back, because I didn't really know what else to do with them from the spears, so he actually moves back as well. And just kind of covering the Seaguard with the spears at this rate. Oh yeah, and here's where this is where the eagle is. This is a little, the model for I guess the model, he didn't want to like knock over the model, so he put like a placeholder there for the eagle to buff the dragon princes. I think I do get off, I let off my opponent's buffs here onto the dragon princes, like some of them, but I didn't really care. I figured the Hope Harvester was dead. And yeah, close combat. So he charges me, and he does, I think, like 6 wounds on the charge, which, to be fair, actually is I got off a little lucky there. The Hope Harvester being defense 5 is kind of interesting, with 9 wounds now with the Engine of Damnation. So I do get a chance to swing back, and I don't kill a knight. I didn't even hit 4 attacks, and I just failed to hit. That sucked. Damn it. So yeah, I pop. Okay, my turn 3. Here I might have made a mistake here in terms of my order of operations. So the Hoarders decide to charge the knights to lock them up, and my opponent chooses to flee. Now, this is where we were trying to play this game quickly. Our goal was to treat it like it was a tournament and try and play quickly. And so I think we made a mistake. So the knights have the Stalker standard. And so he fled through Impassable. Now, when we read the Stalker standard rule, there's a bullet point, or there's a point where it says, like, it does not, effectively, it does not ignore, like, even if you have a Stalker's standard, it does not ignore the Impassable rule. So when we read that, we made a quick decision of just saying, like, okay, so that means these knights still have to take DTs. And so my opponent did, and he took a wound on the captain, and he lost another, 3 knights. So that's great for me. However, this is actually incorrect. We played this wrong. And what it actually is, when the Stalker standard is referring to the Impassable rule, that rule is a bullet point under the Impassable terrain section. So, yeah. So that means what it's really referring to is that if you have a Stalker standard, you still have to abide by the rules of, like, you can't, like, just ghost step your way through the terrain, right? You still can't, like, move through it. You have to move around it. But other than that, as far as we could tell, once we looked back at the rule, my opponent shouldn't have had to take DTs because he has a Stalker standard, because that is a different bullet point under the Impassable terrain section. So that was the conclusion we came up with after the game, but in this game, I think we played it incorrectly. So my opponent took the TTs, and that's how it settled. In other news, yeah, magic missiles. Oh god. I think I tried to target the eagle, and failed to wound it. And then here I moved the succubi up now. I moved both succubi up now, which is maybe not a great thing. I wanted to kind of fill this gap from the spears being able to push me a little bit, because I think the spears can easily handle the 3 brazens, quite honestly. I moved these guys around to start taking shots at Seaguard. But other than that, really not a whole lot going on this turn for magic. Alright, Highborn Elves turn 3. He moves the initiate back. He moves the eagle over to this side again to give the Seaguard some extra leadership, because I think this is his general. Spears are just continuing to back up. Like, he's not going to press. What he is going to do is he's going to shoot the crap out of those succubi that just moved up. Hence why I'm calling it a mistake. And, oh my goodness. What else? Yeah, magic. I mean, that's basically it, right? Like, he's backing up. He's posturing, waiting for me to just come forward more. And then, yeah, Queen's Guard plus Cosmology means that he just, like, decimates this succubi unit here on the right. And so there's 11 models left in that unit after all is said and done. And the Dragon Princes do, in fact, rally. So they picked up the spoil token by killing my Hope Harvester, but then they dropped it because they fled. So basically, the unit is also saving their points currently. So he picked up 380 points for, yeah, not a whole lot of a loss there. Although they are, at least I can see if I can missile them off. We'll find out. Okay, so this is a double turn. I don't have the picture of the Highborn Elf turn 4, but we have Demon Legions turn 4 and Highborn Elf turn 4 together. Also, you can see in my previous turn, I also took some damage from the Eagle from the from more Cosmology nonsense. So, yeah, these Eidolons and Kalima are shimmying their way over here behind the Brazens and being like, ugh. Basically, I'm keeping the Brazens here, just saying that, like, okay, if you want to push me in the center and pressure the Miser, you're going to get flanked by the Brazens. I think here, again, I think he could actually just, like, push me, to be honest. I think now, given my position, like, yeah, you don't want to get charged by Brazens, but at the end of the day, I think the Spears pick them up. Yeah. Especially if he, like, buffs this unit. So over here, I'm trying to move the succubi in, so I'm trying to block in those Knights of Rima and hopefully get him. Hoarders, I start pressuring the Queen's Guard, and now with the Hoarders, my plan is to effectively try and magic missile off the Knights of Rima, or if my opponent stops those missiles, I'm going to ghost, or whatever it is called, dance macabre them up in his face, saying, now you have to deal with the Hoarders. So, magic missiles go off, and I don't do any wounds, unfortunately, to this unit. That kind of sucked. But my opponent did stop a Soul Blight, and then I did get the dance macabre off, and I moved the Hoarders up to this point. In my opponent's turn, now this is where things get kind of hairy. My opponent ends up deciding to say, nope, I'm not charging succubi, I'm just going to go this way. And he marches past them. So my Hoarders are basically here, and now he puts the chaff right in front of the Hoarders, and all the shooting go into the Hoarders. I'm drawing arrows, and everything, as you will see, takes out, 1, 2, 3 Hoarders. So I have 2 Hoarders left with 1 round of, like, all magic missiles, all shooting into the Hoarders. I was like, oh, crap. All right, my turn 5, and we know this is effectively my last turn. because again, we're trying to play quick, and this actually was a work night. So I think the game could have shaped out a bit differently had we had one more turn each. So basically, I reformed the succubi to try and block the knights, saying like, okay, you can't march by me, but you can reform and get around me this way. However, I'm just trying to I was thinking like, well, if it were to go into turn 6, then I would try and charge them with the miser or charge them with the succubi and the miser together, depending on how my opponent reformed. And that would hopefully have guaranteed me the primary, assuming that the hoarders don't live. See, everything else my opponent backs up. I do charge the chaff, and basically my opponent stops, I believe, a magic missile onto the knights again, so they're still there, which is really frustrating. But I do get his spectral blades off on the hoarders. Just because. I was like, screw it. I need to buff these guys. And as you can see, I'm moving the succubi way back because I don't want my opponent coming forward and just getting their points. And as you can also see, the eidolons are basically, they've done their job for the day. And so again, they're just trying to conserve points at this rate too. And yes, with the help of spectral blades, the hoarders do get the oh god, they do get the reavers. Now I didn't which was important because now that gives me a token, and now that makes the hoarders prime target for my opponent. So this is my opponent's last turn, so he just turns to face with everything to try and kill the hoarders. So we've got the initiate. I also overran outside of the initiate's line of sight, which is pretty cool. So yeah. But now we have like a breath weapon, we have the Queen's Guard, we have Sea Guard, we have Cosmology coming into here. So I'm just about to pucker and see if the hoarders can survive. And the one hoarder remained on one wound. Oh my god, I'm sorry, James. Yep, he put everything into that unit. And one hoarder was left alive on one wound, which won me the primary at the end of the game. Oh my god. Good job, hoarder. What a dick. I'm sorry, James. But yep, so that saved me that got me the primary. So yeah, there you have it. That's the end of the game. Whew. And at the end of the day, it was an 11-9, all said and done, victory to the Demon Legions. It would have been interesting to see what we could have done if both of us had a turn to play. I will say that. But yeah, so basically I picked up just the Reavers and the Fire Phoenix, but I won the primary. My opponent got half points for Eidolons, half points for Hoarders, and my Hope Harvester. I did not get half points for the Knights, which is very frustrating. Because I did put magic missiles into them multiple times, and they just oh man, they just shrugged it off. But yeah, so basically it meant that it was effectively, yeah, how did that happen? So it's 11-9 to me, right, because my opponent got his secondary, so he got conserved their numbers. With the primary, it would have been a 12, yeah, it would have been a 12-8 to me. But then, yeah, he got his secondary, so it's actually an 11-9. I believe we did that correctly. So, there you have it. Oof. Yeah. So, first of all, thanks, James, so much for the game. I really appreciated you taking the time on a Sunday night to just get in a game as if we were playing in the tournament together. I do have one more game underway, a practice game that I'll save for later. But Yes, effectively, for the macro side of things, I was happy with how I played the primary, or how I was trying to play the primary overall. I think, going first was probably a detriment. But at the same time, it's kind of like, because I didn't push with everything. I think my goal was to really just push with my toughest units and keep the succubi back, because they just get like lit up by my opponent's list, and so yeah, it's a lot harder to get point. Hopefully with my tougher units, with either the Flaming Aegis or the Resilience 5, or like the 9 wounds 4 up armor 4 up Aegis, plus the Miser just being an ass. Like, I was hoping that perhaps I would have I could have put more pressure on my opponent that way. But yeah, I made that Hope Harvester mistake with the micro side of things. We did the Knights fleeing through the Impassable incorrectly, so that actually was, a smart play by my opponent, with the Stalker standard fleeing through and not actually having to take penalties. But yeah, so it got him points, even though he drops the primary because he fled, but it got him like those extra points. And then his Knights would have been like kind of clear they're fast enough where they can get back into the game. I think I moved the Succubi up too early. And then I realized I was prioritizing stopping the Hereditary. But then I also realized that when I was trying to stop it, I was like, the targets that I had in mind were also outside of his 18 inches of the caster a lot of the time. So it didn't make sense for me to try and stop it if I knew that I was going to target something that most likely was going to be out of position from his caster from even activating that Hereditary anyway, such as the Knights, for example. So it's something to keep in mind when I'm like playing against Highborn Elves, and knowing that, like, okay, note where his Hereditary is coming from, and like just measure 18 inches from that guy, just to make sure that if I'm planning on doing damage to my opponent, what I'm doing is most likely going to be outside of 18 inches, so I can actually focus on stopping other important spells. All right, and we are at the end. Thank you so much for watching, for making it this far. I greatly appreciate it, as always. Please comment. Tell me what you like about the report. Tell me give me some feedback, of course, if need be. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. Thanks again, James, for taking the time to get this game in with me. I really greatly appreciate it. And yeah, I'll catch everyone in the next one. Ciao, ciao for now, y'all.